The Viridian scout ship moved through space like a silver needle, cutting through black cloth. And Commander Taman watched the stars shift on his viewing screen as the ship dropped out of hyperspace near a system that should have been empty according to all their maps and records, but the sensors were telling a different story entirely. The fourth planet in this forgotten system was glowing with energy signatures that made no sense to Taman or his crew and Captain Sora, who commanded the reconnaissance team, was already preparing her equipment to investigate what appeared to be impossible readings from a world that their databases claimed was nothing more than a dead rock floating in space. Taman ordered the ship to maintain distance while Sora and her team conducted long-range scans, and what they found made everyone on the bridge go silent because the planet was not dead at all, but covered with structures that were clearly artificial and clearly advanced beyond anything they expected to find in this remote corner of the galaxy. The energy readings were coming from massive installations that covered entire continents and orbital platforms that surrounded the planet like a metal ring, and the ship's computer was struggling to process all the data because there were so many artificial structures that the sensors kept overloading, trying to catalog them all. Sora reported that there were beings living on the planet, and when she enhanced the visual scanners to get a better look at these mysterious inhabitants, Taman felt his blood turn cold because the creatures moving around on the planet's surface looked exactly like humans, and that was supposed to be impossible. Everyone in the galaxy knew that humans were primitive, creatures who had barely mastered fire and lived in caves on a backward planet called Earth, and they certainly had not developed space travel or built colonies on distant worlds or created the kind of advanced technology that was clearly visible on this planet. But the evidence was right there on the scanner screens, and Sora confirmed that these were definitely humans based on their biological signatures and movement patterns and the way they had organized their settlements, and Taman realized that everything the galaxy thought it knew about humans was completely wrong. The humans on the planet seemed to be aware that the Viridian ship was watching them, because their energy signatures began to change and new structures started appearing on the scanner screens as if the humans were activating defensive systems that had been hidden until now. Governor Hyun-woo appeared on the planet's surface near what looked like a command center, and he was clearly directing other humans, who were moving with military precision and efficiency that impressed even Taman, who had spent his entire life in the Viridian military and had never seen such coordinated movement from any species. The humans were not panicking or running away from the alien ship that had appeared in their system, and instead they seemed to be following pre-established protocols as if they had been expecting visitors and had prepared for exactly this situation, which made Taman wonder how many other alien ships had found this place before. Defense Minister Jin'e emerged from one of the larger structures and began coordinating what was clearly a military response, and Taman watched through the scanners as human soldiers took positions around. Key installations and weapon systems that had been hidden beneath the planet's surface began to reveal themselves. The humans were not just advanced, but they were also heavily armed, and their weapons were unlike anything in the Viridian military arsenal and appeared to be designed for fighting battles in space against technologically advanced opponents, which suggested that these humans had been preparing for war against alien species for a very long time. Sora tried to establish communication with the humans, and Governor Hyun-woo responded in perfect Viridian, which shocked everyone on the bridge because humans were not supposed to know any alien languages, let alone speak them fluently, and his message was polite but firm. The human governor welcomed them to the system and offered to discuss trade agreements and diplomatic relations, but his tone made it clear that the humans were not afraid of the Viridian ship and were prepared to defend themselves if necessary, and behind his diplomatic words was an unmistakable threat. Taman ordered his crew to conduct more detailed scans of the planet, while maintaining communications with the humans, and what they discovered made the situation even more disturbing because the human colony was not just advanced, but was clearly designed as a military installation disguised as a civilian settlement. The industrial complexes were producing weapons and spacecraft at a rate that would have impressed the largest Viridian factories, and the orbital shipyards were constructing vessels that were bigger and more sophisticated than anything in the Viridian fleet. And the humans seemed to have an unlimited supply of resources, and Worker Scout leader Dal Ho reported that his sensors were detecting underground facilities that extended deep into the planet's crust and were filled with equipment and weapons that he could not identify, but that were clearly designed for warfare on a scale that the Viridians had never imagined. The humans had training facilities where their young people were learning combat techniques, and their educational centers were teaching subjects that seemed to focus on military science and alien biology and stellar navigation, and everything suggested that these humans were not peaceful colonists but were preparing for galactic conquest. When Timon tried to probe deeper into the human defenses, his scanners were blocked by jamming systems that were more advanced than anything the Viridians possessed, and the humans politely but firmly told him that certain areas of their world were restricted, and that continued scanning would be considered a hostile act. Governor Hyunwoo made it clear that while the humans welcomed peaceful contact, they were fully prepared to defend themselves against any threat, and his words carried the weight of someone who had the military power to back up his statements, which made Taemin realize that his single scout ship was completely outgunned. The human colony had defensive weapons that could destroy the Viridian ship before it could even attempt to escape, and the humans had been polite only because they chose to be polite, not because they were afraid or weak, and this realization made Taemin's crew very nervous. Sora recommended an immediate withdrawal from the system, and Taemin agreed because it was clear that the humans were far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had imagined, and this information needed to be reported to the Viridian High Command as quickly as possible. Before leaving, Taemin tried one last scan of the system and discovered that there were other human installations on different planets and moons throughout the system, and that this was not just a single colony, but an entire network of human settlements, all connected by communication systems and all clearly part of a larger military organization. The humans allowed the Viridian ship to leave without incident, but Dalho's final sensor readings detected human spacecraft following them at a distance to make sure they actually left the system and to gather intelligence about Viridian technology and capabilities, which suggested that the humans were just as interested in studying alien species as the aliens were in studying them. As the scout ship jumped back into hyperspace, Taemin realized that the galaxy was about to change forever because humanity was not the primitive species everyone thought they were, but was instead a highly advanced military power that had been hiding its true capabilities while secretly preparing for something that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The question that haunted Taemin during the long journey back to Viridian space was not whether the humans were planning to conquer the galaxy, but when they would begin their conquest and whether any of the established alien empires would be strong enough to stop them when that day finally came. Admiral Sung-ho received the urgent message from colony intelligence while he was reviewing battle plans in his underground command center. And the news was not good, because multiple alien factions had now discovered the location of the human colony and were sending ships to investigate what they had found. The Viridian Empire had been the first to stumble across their world, but now the Quantum Collective and the nomadic Void Hunters were also moving ships toward the system, and each alien faction was trying to gather intelligence about human capabilities without alerting the others to what they had discovered. Sung-ho called an emergency meeting with the colony's senior staff, and when Governor Hyun-woo and Defense Minister Jin-ai arrived at the command center, they found detailed holographic displays showing the movement of alien fleets throughout the galaxy, and all of those fleets were converging on human space. Colonel Min-soo reported that the alien observers were particularly interested in the colony's training facilities where human children learned combat techniques that would have challenged veteran alien soldiers, and the aliens seemed unable to understand how humans could be so naturally gifted at warfare. The training academies operated around the clock, and human students practiced zero-gravity combat in massive simulation chambers, while others learned stellar navigation techniques that allowed them to plot courses through dangerous asteroid fields and nebulae that would destroy most alien vessels. Min-soo showed the assembled officers footage of human students who were barely old enough to walk, learning how to operate powered armor suits and weapon systems that were more advanced than the equipment used by elite alien special forces, and the alien observers were recording everything they saw. The aliens watched in fascination as human children demonstrated tactical thinking that surpassed anything their own military schools produced, and every human colonist, from the youngest student to the oldest civilian, possessed combat skills that would have made them legendary warriors in any alien army. Communications Officer Yuna had been monitoring alien transmissions, and she reported that the alien observers were becoming increasingly alarmed as they realized that this colony was not an isolated settlement, but was part of a vast network of human worlds that spanned multiple star systems. The alien intercepted communications revealed that humans had established colonies in every uninhabited system they could reach, and each colony specialized in different aspects of military preparation, with some focusing on ship construction, while others concentrated on weapons research, and still others on training soldiers. Dr. Yunsu had been analyzing the alien scanning attempts, and she reported that the aliens were particularly interested in human technology because their sensors were detecting energy signatures and materials that were more advanced than anything in the known galaxy. The humans had developed fusion reactors that were smaller and more efficient than alien power systems, and their weapons fired projectiles that could punch through armor that was designed to stop the most powerful alien weapons, and their ships moved faster and maneuvered better than anything the aliens had ever seen. What disturbed the aliens most was that human technology appeared to be based on principles that the aliens themselves had developed, but the humans had improved upon those designs in ways that the original creators had never imagined possible. Engineer He Jin demonstrated some of the colony's manufacturing capabilities for the senior staff and showed them production lines that were creating weapons and equipment at a rate that exceeded the output of entire alien industrial worlds. The factories never stopped working, and they produced everything from personal weapons to massive spacecraft. And the humans had automated systems that could construct a fully armed warship in the time it would take alien shipyards to complete a single hull section. Farmer Dongwu might have seemed like a simple agricultural worker to the alien observers, but he possessed military training that included advanced marksmanship and tactical planning, and he could operate every weapon system in the colony's arsenal and coordinate defensive operations across multiple sectors. Every human colonist was a soldier first, and everything else second, and the aliens were beginning to understand that they were not observing a peaceful settlement, but were watching a military base that was disguised as a civilian colony. The alien observers had managed to intercept some human communications, and what they learned made their situation even more frightening, because the humans were not just preparing to defend themselves, but were actively planning offensive operations against every major alien empire. Yuna showed the senior staff the alien intelligence reports that had been decoded from captured transmissions, and those reports revealed that human colonies had been conducting surveillance operations against alien worlds for decades. The humans knew the location of every alien military base and the composition of every alien fleet and the weaknesses of every alien defense system, and they had been quietly gathering this information while the aliens remained completely unaware that they were being watched. Dr. Yunsu revealed that human research facilities had been studying captured alien technology and biological samples for years, and they had developed weapons and tactics that were specifically designed to exploit the vulnerabilities of different alien species. The humans had created chemical agents that were harmless to human physiology, but were lethal to Viridian biology, and they had developed sonic weapons that could drive quantum collective minds insane while leaving human brains completely unaffected. The Void Hunters, who prided themselves on their ability to survive in the harshest environments, would find that humans had developed environmental weapons that could make any world uninhabitable for their species while remaining perfectly safe for human colonists. Admiral Sung Ho explained that the human military doctrine was based on the principle of overwhelming superiority, and that every human colony was designed to be able to defend itself against attacks from multiple alien empires simultaneously. The colony's defensive systems included orbital platforms that could emerge from subspace without warning, and cloaked minefields that surrounded the entire system, and automated defense networks that could operate independently, even if the colony itself was destroyed. But the most frightening aspect of human military preparation was that they were not content to simply defend their colonies, but were actively preparing to conquer every inhabitable world in the galaxy. Governor Hyunwoo revealed that human battle plans included detailed invasion strategies for every alien homeworld, and those plans took into account the specific military capabilities and weaknesses of each alien species. The humans had been observing alien military exercises and studying alien tactical doctrines, and they had developed counter-strategies that would allow them to defeat any alien force regardless of size or technological advantage. Colonel Minsu showed satellite imagery of alien military bases that had been taken by human reconnaissance drones. And those images revealed details about alien defenses that the aliens themselves thought were secret. The humans knew exactly where every alien weapon was positioned and how many soldiers were stationed at each base and what kind of equipment they possessed and how long it would take for reinforcements to arrive during an attack. Defense Minister Jin A explained that human intelligence networks had infiltrated every level of alien society, and that there were human agents working within alien governments and military organizations, and even within the families of high-ranking alien officials. The aliens who thought they were secretly observing the human colony were themselves being observed by human intelligence operatives who were gathering information about alien capabilities and intentions. Yuna reported that human communications networks were coordinating activities across hundreds of colony worlds, and that the aliens had only discovered one small part of a massive military organization that spanned half the galaxy. The human colonies were not scattered settlements struggling to survive in hostile territory, but were instead fortified positions in a carefully planned strategic network that was designed to support large-scale military operations across multiple star systems simultaneously. Dr. Hyunsu revealed that human scientists had been developing weapons that were beyond anything the aliens had imagined, including devices that could destroy entire planets and weapons that could eliminate all life in a star system while leaving the planets themselves intact for human colonization. The aliens observing the colony were beginning to realize that humanity represented an existential threat to every established civilization in the galaxy, and that their species had been preparing for galactic conquest while the aliens remained ignorant of the danger that was growing stronger. Every day, Admiral Sung-ho concluded the briefing by informing his staff that human intelligence had detected increased alien military activity throughout the galaxy, and that it appeared the alien empires were beginning to recognize the threat that humanity represented. The time for secrecy was ending, and soon the aliens would be forced to either accept human dominance or attempt to destroy humanity before the human war machine became too powerful to stop. The question was whether the aliens would be smart enough to surrender peacefully or foolish enough to start a war that they could never win against an enemy that had been preparing for this conflict for longer than most alien civilized intelligence. Director Jae-hyun stood in the interrogation chamber watching 3 alien spies who had been captured trying to infiltrate the colony's research facilities, and their fear was obvious, even though they belonged to different species and had different ways of expressing terror. The Viridian spy was named Kexra, and he had been caught photographing weapon prototypes while the Quantum Collective agent called herself Mind Link Velta, and she had been discovered trying to access the colony's computer networks, and the Void Hunter warrior known as Blood Track Morun had been captured attempting to steal biological samples. Jae-hyun had interrogated each spy separately, and what he learned confirmed his worst suspicions, because the major alien powers had formed an unprecedented alliance specifically to deal with the human threat, and they were sharing intelligence about human capabilities for the first time in their history. The aliens revealed that their respective governments had been monitoring human activities across multiple star systems, and they had discovered that humanity had established colonies in over 300 systems, and each colony was heavily fortified and designed for military operations. Ambassador Su Jin had been attempting diplomatic contact with alien governments, but their demands were always the same, and they wanted humanity to immediately disarm all military installations and submit to galactic authority and accept permanent supervision by alien peacekeeping forces. The aliens claimed that humanity was violating galactic law by militarizing so many star systems, and that their weapons were too advanced, and their expansion too rapid, and their military preparations too extensive for a species that was supposed to be primitive and peaceful. But Jae-hyun knew that the aliens were afraid, because they had finally realized that humanity was not the weak species they had believed, and that human military power had grown beyond anything they could control or contain. General Young-sik arrived at the intelligence facility to review the interrogation results, and he brought with him historical records that explained why humanity had become so focused on military preparation and why they were ready for galactic war. 50 years ago, a coalition of alien races had attacked Earth believing that humanity would be easy to conquer and enslave, but they had seriously underestimated human determination and resourcefulness, and the invasion had been repelled after a brutal war that lasted 3 years. The aliens had destroyed several human cities and killed millions of people before human forces managed to capture enough alien technology to turn the tide of the battle and drive the invaders away from Earth. Young Sik explained that the alien attack had taught humanity a crucial lesson about galactic politics, which was that in a universe filled with hostile species, the only way to ensure survival was to become so powerful that no enemy would dare to attack. The human government had made a decision that would reshape the entire galaxy, and they chose to secretly establish military colonies throughout space, while publicly maintaining the illusion that humanity was still primitive and confined to Earth. Commander Nari demonstrated the results of 50 years of military development by showing Jaehyun weapons and equipment that surpassed anything the captured aliens had ever seen. Human soldiers wore powered exoskeletons that granted them superhuman strength and speed, and allowed them to fight in any environment from the vacuum of space to the crushing depths of ocean worlds. The exoskeletons were equipped with energy shields that could deflect most alien weapons and built-in life support systems that could keep a soldier alive for weeks without resupply, and weapon systems that could destroy armored vehicles with single shots. Human starships used stealth technology that made them invisible to most alien sensors, and they could appear without warning in the middle of enemy fleets and destroy multiple targets before the aliens even realized they were under attack. The ships were also equipped with faster-than-light communication systems that allowed human commanders to coordinate operations across vast distances in real time, while alien forces relied on slower communication methods that could be intercepted. And jammed Nari showed Jaehyun recordings of human military exercises, where entire fleets practiced coordinated attacks against simulated alien homeworlds, and the precision and scale of these operations was beyond anything the aliens could imagine. Strike Force leader Wan Su had developed tactics that emphasized speed and overwhelming firepower, and his forces could conquer an entire star system before the defenders could mount an effective response. The human battle doctrine was based on the principle that wars should be won as quickly as possible with minimum casualties to human forces and maximum destruction of enemy capability and will to fight. Dr. Kyung-hee had spent decades developing weapons that were specifically designed to exploit the biological and psychological weaknesses of different alien species. Her research division had created chemical agents that could selectively target alien
DNA while leaving human genetic material completely unaffected, and these weapons could eliminate entire alien populations without harming human colonists. The sonic weapons could generate frequencies that were inaudible to human ears, but could
cause permanent brain damage to quantum collective minds and drive them into madness and suicidal behavior. Environmental weapons could alter planetary atmospheres to make them toxic to specific alien species while remaining perfectly breathable for humans, and these weapons could transform enemy worlds into human colonies without requiring destructive battles. Kyung-hee explained that her team had studied captured alien prisoners for years, and they understood alien biology better than the aliens understood themselves, and this knowledge had allowed them to create weapons that were essentially genocide devices disguised as military equipment. The captured spies had revealed that alien intelligence services were aware of some human weapons, but they had no idea of the true scope of human military research or the extent to which humans had prepared for species-specific warfare. Jae-hyun realized that the aliens were planning a preemptive strike against human colonies because they understood that waiting would only allow humanity to become even more powerful and dangerous. The alien alliance was mobilizing their combined fleets for a coordinated attack that would target all known human colonies simultaneously, and they believed that surprise and overwhelming numbers would allow them to defeat humanity before the human war machine could respond effectively. But the aliens did not know that human intelligence had been monitoring their communications and tracking their fleet movements, and that humanity was fully prepared for the attack that was coming. Young Sik revealed that human military planning had always assumed that the aliens would eventually discover human military preparations and attempt to prevent human expansion through military force. The human colonies were not just heavily defended, but were designed to function as bait that would draw alien fleets into carefully prepared killing zones where human weapons could destroy them with maximum efficiency. Every human colony had hidden defensive systems that were far more powerful than anything the aliens had detected, and when the alien attack began, they would discover that they were not fighting vulnerable settlements, but were instead attacking fortress worlds that had been waiting for this moment for decades. The human strategy was to allow the aliens to commit their entire military strength to the attack, and then annihilate those forces so completely that the surviving alien governments would have no choice but to surrender unconditionally. Nari explained that human battle plans included not just the defense of human colonies, but also immediate counterattacks against alien homeworlds that would be left defenseless. When their fleets were destroyed, the humans would not be content to simply repel the alien attack, but would use the opportunity to conquer every alien empire and establish human dominance throughout the galaxy. Dr. Kyung-hee added that her weapons were already in position around alien homeworlds and could be activated remotely if the aliens refused to surrender after their fleets were destroyed. The choice facing the alien alliance was simple but terrible, because they could either attack humanity and face total annihilation, or they could submit peacefully and accept human rule over the galaxy. Jae-hyun knew that the aliens would choose to attack because their pride and fear would not allow them to surrender without fighting, and that decision would seal their fate and ensure human victory. The war that was coming would not be a struggle between equals, but would be a demonstration of human superiority that would end with humanity ruling over every inhabited world in the galaxy. The only question remaining was how many aliens would die before their leaders accepted the inevitable reality that humanity was destined to inherit the stars. The emergency council meeting on the neutral world of Nexus Prime brought together alien leaders who had been enemies for centuries, but who now faced a threat that made their previous conflicts seem like minor disagreements between friends. Emperor Vextar of the Viridian Empire sat across from Overmind Zephylos of the Quantum Collective, while Khan Mordak of the Void Hunters paced nervously around the conference chamber, and all three leaders knew that they were discussing the survival of their civilizations. The intelligence reports from the human colony had convinced even the most skeptical alien officials that humanity represented an existential threat that could not be ignored or negotiated away, and that immediate military action was the only option. Vexitar spoke first, and his voice carried the authority of someone who had ruled an empire for over 2 centuries, but there was also fear in his tone as he described what Viridian scouts had discovered about human military capabilities. The humans possessed technology that was centuries ahead of what any alien species had achieved, and their weapons could destroy entire fleets, while their defensive systems could withstand attacks that would annihilate alien homeworld Zephylos. Shared intelligence from quantum collective infiltration attempts and revealed that human colonies were connected by communication networks that allowed them to coordinate military operations across vast distances in real time. The humans had been watching alien civilizations for decades, and they knew the location and strength of every alien military installation, and they had developed battle plans that could conquer the entire galaxy within a matter of months. Mordak reported that Void Hunter raiding parties had attempted to attack isolated human outposts, but had been completely destroyed by defensive systems that seemed to anticipate their every move. The three alien leaders agreed that their only chance of survival was to combine their military forces and launch a coordinated preemptive strike against all known human colonies before humanity could complete whatever preparations they were making. Back on the human colony, strategic planner Bo Young monitored alien communications from her command center deep beneath the planet's surface and watched as alien fleets began moving throughout the galaxy in patterns that could only mean one thing. The aliens were mobilizing every warship they possessed for a massive coordinated attack, and they believed that surprise and overwhelming numbers would allow them to destroy human civilization before it could threaten their own worlds. Bo Young reported the alien fleet movements to Governor Hyun Woo, and he immediately activated the colony's deepest emergency protocols that revealed defensive systems that had been hidden even from most human colonists. Massive weapon platforms emerged from underground bunkers, while orbital defense stations that had been disguised as asteroids powered up their energy shields and targeting systems. The colony's industrial facilities shifted from producing civilian equipment to manufacturing military hardware at a rate that would have been impossible for any alien world to match. Fleet Admiral Gite commanded the human response from a hidden command center that had been carved out of solid rock miles beneath the colony's surface and connected to similar facilities on hundreds of other human worlds. The aliens had made the mistake of assuming that the colony they had discovered was typical of human settlements, but what they did not know was that they had been observing the central hub of humanity's military network. Every human colony was connected to this command center through quantum communication links that could not be intercepted or jammed by alien technology, and Gite could coordinate the defense of hundreds of worlds simultaneously. The alien fleets arrived in human space expecting to find vulnerable colonies, defended by primitive weapons, but instead, they encountered defensive systems that made their own military installations look like children's toys. Orbital platforms that had been invisible to alien sensors suddenly appeared and began firing weapons that could destroy alien dreadnoughts with single shots, while automated defense networks launched swarms of missiles that could track and destroy any target. The aliens discovered that the space around human colonies was filled with cloaked minefields that could detect and destroy alien ships while remaining invisible to their most advanced sensors. Human warships that appeared to be constructed using principles that violated known laws of physics emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system and began systematically destroying the alien attack. Fleet's Captain He Young led boarding parties that captured intact alien vessels for intelligence purposes, while Combat Engineer Seok Jin demonstrated human superiority in ship-to-ship combat by disabling alien weapon systems without destroying the ships themselves. The aliens realized too late that they were not fighting desperate colonists defending their homes, but were instead facing the advance guard of a military empire that had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. The human ships moved with coordination and precision that surpassed anything the aliens had achieved in centuries of warfare, and their weapons seemed to be specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in alien ship designs. Alien commanders tried to coordinate their forces, but discovered that their communication systems were being jammed by human electronic warfare devices, while human forces maintained perfect coordination through communication networks that alien technology could not affect. The battle lasted only hours, but when it was over, the alien attack, fleets had been completely annihilated, while human forces had suffered minimal casualties and had captured dozens of intact alien vessels for study. Gite reported to the human high command that the alien attack had been repelled with ease and that human intelligence estimates about alien military capabilities had proven to be completely accurate. The surviving alien ships that managed to escape the battle carried news back to their homeworlds that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The aliens had not been defeated by superior numbers or better luck, but had been outclassed in every aspect of warfare by an enemy that understood their capabilities better than they understood themselves. Emperor Vexitar received the battle reports in his throne room on the Viridian homeworld, and the news was so devastating that several of his advisors collapsed from shock. The combined alien fleets that represented centuries of military development and the pride of three great civilizations had been destroyed by human forces that seemed to treat galactic warfare as a routine training exercise over mind. Cephalos analyzed the tactical data from the battle and realized that human military doctrine was based on principles that made alien strategies completely obsolete. The humans had not simply won a battle, but had demonstrated that they possessed military technology and tactical knowledge that made them invincible against any conceivable alien opposition. Khan Mordak gathered the survivors of his raiding fleets and listened to their reports about human weapons that could destroy entire squadrons of Void Hunter ships without suffering any damage in return. The aliens faced a choice that no galactic civilization had ever confronted before, because they could either surrender immediately and accept human rule, or they could continue fighting and face complete annihilation. The human victory had been so complete and so overwhelming that continued resistance seemed pointless, but alien pride and the fear of slavery made surrender almost impossible to contemplate. Gite sent a message to the surviving alien governments offering them terms that were generous, considering the circumstances, but that made clear that humanity would accept nothing less than complete submission. The aliens could keep their homeworlds and maintain their cultures, but they would have to acknowledge human authority and provide tribute in the form of resources and technology. Any attempt at future aggression would result in the immediate and total destruction of the offending alien civilization using weapons that made the recent battle look like a minor skirmish. The message concluded with a demonstration of human power as weapons platforms that had been hidden around alien homeworlds for years revealed themselves and began broadcasting surrender demands directly to alien populations. The aliens realized that they had never been the masters of their own destiny, and that humanity had been manipulating galactic politics for decades while remaining hidden in the shadows. War was over before most aliens even realized it had begun, and the galaxy now belonged to humanity, whether the alien civilizations chose to accept that reality or not. Supreme Commander Junho stood before the holographic display that showed the true extent of human expansion across the galaxy, and even the alien leaders who had been brought to witness this revelation could barely comprehend what they were. Seeing the map displayed over 1,000 human colonies spread across every habitable system, within 100 light-years of Earth, and each colony was connected to the others through a communication network that allowed humanity to function as a single coordinated military force. While alien empires had spent centuries fighting each other over trade routes and territorial disputes, humanity had been quietly establishing settlements in every uninhabited system they could reach, and turning those settlements into fortress worlds. The aliens had believed they controlled the galaxy, but the map showed that human colonies outnumbered alien worlds by a ratio of 3-to-1, and that humanity had been the dominant species in the galaxy for decades without anyone realizing it. Emperor Vextar stared at the display in shock as he realized that the Viridian Empire, which he had thought was one of the great powers of the galaxy, actually controlled less than 5% of inhabited space. Mind Zephylos calculated the implications of human expansion and understood that the Quantum Collective had never been more than a minor regional power compared to the vast human civilization that surrounded them. Khan Mordak looked at the locations of human colonies and realized that the Void Hunters had been traveling through human space for years without knowing it, and that their raiding fleets had survived only because humanity had allowed them to survive. Junho explained that human expansion had been carefully planned to avoid direct confrontation with alien empires until humanity was strong enough to dominate them completely. Every human colony had been positioned to control strategic resources and transportation routes while remaining invisible to alien detection systems, and the aliens had been completely unaware that their civilizations were being slowly surrounded. The remnants of the alien alliance faced a choice that would determine the fate of their species, because they could either accept human terms immediately, or they could face the complete destruction of their civilizations. Diplomat Inho presented the surrender terms that humanity was offering, and while they were more generous than the aliens had any right to expect, they made clear that the galaxy now belonged to humanity. Alien governments would be allowed to continue ruling their homeworlds as long as they acknowledged human authority and provided tribute in the form of raw materials and manufactured goods. Alien military forces would be disbanded, except for small police units that would maintain internal order under human supervision, and any attempt to rebuild military capabilities would result in immediate occupation. Aliens would be permitted to maintain their cultures and religions, but they would be required to adopt human languages for official communication and to accept human oversight of their educational systems. In return, humanity would guarantee the security of alien worlds against external threats and would provide advanced technology that would improve living standards for alien populations. Vextar asked what would happen if the alien governments refused these terms, and Inho's response made it clear that surrender was not optional. Human fleets were already positioned around every alien homeworld, and those fleets carried weapons that could sterilize entire planets without damaging the underlying ecosystem. The aliens could choose to surrender peacefully and maintain some degree of autonomy, or they could choose to fight and face complete extinction, as their species were wiped from the galaxy field marshal. Chul Su demonstrated human military efficiency by overseeing the occupation of alien homeworlds with precision that impressed even the defeated alien leaders. Human forces landed on alien worlds and established control over key installations without firing a single shot, because the aliens had already realized that resistance was futile. The occupation forces treated alien civilians with respect and professionalism, while making it clear that any attempt at rebellion would be crushed immediately and permanently. Human administrators took control of alien governments and began implementing reforms that would integrate alien worlds into the human empire, while preserving local customs and traditions. The aliens discovered that human rule was actually more efficient and less oppressive than their own governments had been, and that living standards began to improve almost immediately under human administration. Human technology provided solutions to problems that had plagued alien civilizations for centuries, and human medical knowledge cured diseases that alien doctors had considered incurable. The transportation networks that connected human colonies allowed alien worlds to trade with each other more efficiently than they had ever managed under their own governments. Research Director Hayun revealed the ultimate purpose behind human expansion and explained that humanity's goal had never been conquest for its own sake, but the creation of a stable galactic civilization. Humanity had learned from the first alien attack on Earth that the galaxy was filled with hostile species that would eventually threaten any successful civilization, and the only solution was to establish human dominance before those threats could emerge. The human empire was designed to defend itself against dangers from beyond the galaxy, including hostile alien species that might arrive from other star systems or extragalactic threats that could destroy entire civilizations. Hayun showed the alien leaders evidence of long-range sensor contacts that suggested there were aggressive alien species in nearby galaxies that would eventually develop faster than light travel and threaten all life in this galaxy. The human military machine had been built not just to conquer the local alien empires, but to defend the entire galaxy against external threats that would require coordinated resistance from every intelligent species. Under human rule, the galaxy would become stronger and more unified than it had ever been, and would be prepared to face whatever challenges emerged from the vast darkness between the stars. The alien leaders began to understand that humanity had not conquered them out of greed or ambition, but out of necessity, and that human rule might actually ensure the survival of their species. Vextar was the first to formally surrender, and he signed the treaty that made the Viridian Empire a protectorate of the human hegemony and acknowledged human authority over Viridian space. Zephylos followed shortly afterward, and agreed to integrate quantum collective worlds into the human empire in exchange for guarantees that collective culture and technology would be preserved. Mordak was the last to surrender, but even the proud Void Hunter leader eventually acknowledged that his people would be better off under human protection than facing extinction in a hopeless war. The signing of the surrender treaties marked the end of the old galactic order and the beginning of a new age in which humanity would guide the development of every intelligent species in the galaxy. The transition to human rule proceeded smoothly because the aliens discovered that humans were more interested in productivity and stability than in oppression and exploitation. Alien worlds that had struggled with resource shortages and technological limitations found that human assistance allowed them to achieve levels of prosperity that had been impossible under their previous governments. The communication networks that connected human colonies were extended to include alien worlds, and for the first time in galactic history, every intelligent species could communicate and trade with every other species. Scientific research that had been limited by the narrow perspectives of individual alien species was revolutionized by human coordination that combined the best ideas and innovations from all civilizations. The galaxy became safer and more prosperous under human rule, and even the most proud alien leaders had to admit that humanity had created a better civilization than any of them had achieved independently. Years later, when the first extragalactic threats were detected by human sensor networks, the alien species that had once feared human conquest realized that their former enemies had become their saviors. The galaxy was prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead, because humanity had created a unified civilization that combined the strengths of every intelligent species under the guidance of the one species that had proven capable of thinking beyond the narrow interests of any single world or empire. The price of underestimating humanity had been the loss of alien independence, but the reward was membership in a galactic civilization that would endure long after the stars themselves had grown cold and dark.